The first city a man must subdue is the city within. The soul of a man is under contention because the soul is the bridge between the spirit realm and the natural realm. And so the spirits that are lords in the natural realm try to find a place in the soul to control the man. And the spirits that are lords in the spirit realm also try to get a place in the soul of the man in order to subdue him. That's why Ephesians 4:27, he said, giving no place to the devil. Because that is a city that strong men want to enter in order to take control. When the devil takes control of your mind, he rules your life. When God takes control of your mind, he rules your life. And so the first city you must conquer is not external. The most sensitive city any man will find himself is his soul. Every action you take, before you took it, there's a control tower from within you that determines whether you do it or not. And even if you do it, whether you are happy about it or not, it's also a function of the set of information that comes from this control tower. So you must win this city to be able to live according to the blueprint of heaven for your life. There are many people who would have loved to serve God, but the city within is under attack. So even though they want to pray, they can't, because they are arrested from within. Even though they want to give, they can't. They are arrested from within. Until they conquer this city, they cannot live out their destiny. And so when you see such men, the help they need is not positional. Many times you think you want to help somebody and you start giving them position. No matter the position you give them, if you don't cause them to win the war within, they can never have any impact wherever they are. Rather, they will become more relevant slaves. Because when you give them position, you give them exposure. The spirits that didn't know they were there before, you just introduce them to those cities, to those spirits. And when those spirits come, their captivity will be doubled. It would have been better they were in obscurity, where they knew less spirits and less spirits knew them. Now that you have given them visibility and they've not conquered here, they become more of a slave. The guy is struggling with immorality, and you think the way to help him is to make him a worship leader. Wait until he stands here. When he stands here, he will be exposed to more persons and he will be exposed to more spirits. The next time you check, he is deeper into immorality than he ever was. The guy had no control over money, and not mentally. You say he's my brother, and then you say I forgive you, and then you put him in charge. The next time, before he stole 1 million, next time he will steal 100 million. Because he has more access, he has more authority, but he's not conquered. That's why the Bible said the man that tames his flesh is stronger than the one that takes a city. He's talking to you about two different cities. There is a visible city and there is an invincible city within. If you have not conquered the invincible city within, everything you do in the visible city is a joke. The first city every one of us must conquer is within. And the way you probe that city is to check the motivations that make you do the things you do. When your motivations are not correct, it means you are a slave within. The proof that you have won the city within is that your motivations are always right. Every action you take is backed up by a motivation that is in alignment with the will of God. If it becomes self-centered, you have lost that city. And if you lose this city, there's no other city you can conquer. Unless you conquer this city within first, you cannot conquer any other city. When you conquer this city within, then you enter the second battle. The second cities are spiritual cities. Spiritual cities are realms that spirits dwell in. There are spirits in the invisible realm. There are spirits hovering about in the spirit realm. The Bible said when an evil spirit is cast out of a man, Matthew 12:43 and 44, it goes about in dry places, looking for where it will dwell. If it doesn't find any, it returns. That means there are desolated places in the spirit where spirits hover. That's why a lady asked me when I was teaching on Tuesday, he said since she came to a new environment where she's living, predominated by the sons of the bondwoman, it became difficult for her to win souls. And I told her, if you check, it has even become difficult for you to pray. The reason is because there are spirits in that atmosphere. And so when you enter a territory, the energy level is different. Make no mistakes about it. When spirits dominate a sphere, they put their energy there. It's not everywhere that is possessed by spirits. Some realms are possessed by the energy of spirits. When Jesus came to Peter's mother-in-law, he didn't cast out a demon. The Bible said he rebuked fever. Because the fever is an energy of a spirit of sickness and infirmity. So the spirit himself may not be there, but his energy is there. The same way the energy of a spirit can dominate a man, the energy of a spirit can dominate an atmosphere. Why do you think you come into a service moody? But after a while, when the worship is intensified, you start jumping and shouting. You didn't come into the service shouting. The energy of the Spirit of God has dominated the service. And so upon come, you begin to interact with it. The reason you are excited is because you are receptive to that. You received it. The same way you can enter a place and the energy of immorality will dominate. If you don't know how to fight and shut out those energies, they will be planted into your soul. And the first victory you have here, you will lose it. I've known people who went for NYC in 21 days, they were disflowered. Because they stepped out of one energy and entered another energy. I've known people who went into a business and in the first 1 month they became liars. Because they left one energy and entered another energy. There are spirits hovering in the spirit realm. And what they do is that they emit their energy into the context where men dwell. So that a man who is receptive to their energy will attract their presence. If you receive their energy, you invite them into your life. That's how these spirits work. And so in order to win the war over spirit cities, what you do is that you resist the energy constantly. When you come into a place and you discover people are immoral, you have to take a stand. If you don't know that this is warfare, you will be there saying, God will help us. You will not be helped. You will drown. It will begin with lust. After a while, it will begin with talking with one or two persons. The next time, you are crying on your bed because you just fornicated. You didn't know how to resist that city, that energy, because you didn't know that there was a spiritual city there. I've taught before from Ephesians chapter 6 from verse 10, how that Paul said, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. He said, put on the whole armor of God, wherewith you'll be able to stand the wiles of the enemy. And he said, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. Principalities come to dominate context. And when they release their energy there, anybody who receives it becomes a slave. So the second city you must dominate is the spirit cities. Most times, the physical environment we live derive their reality from the spirit city. That's why you hear names like Egypt in the Bible. At first you think it's a country. Later you discover it's a spirit city. Because what Egypt wants to do is to stop the worship of God. You hear Babylon the Great. At first you thought it's a country. A point come, you now discover it's a city in the spirit. What Babylon intends to do is to bring mixture into your life. So that God is the energy, the temperature and the reality of God is compromised with the reality of other spirits. And a point comes, your pursuit becomes greatness. And you don't care whether you are right or wrong. The guy entered into ministry at first with passion for God and for souls. After 10 years in ministry, his goal becomes a cathedral and money. He doesn't know when he forgot about God. He forgot about soul. Babylon has attacked him. A point came, he began to mix fame with spiritual authority. A point comes, he begins to mix the anointing with psychology. A point comes, he begins to mix divine direction with human strategy. And a day will come, he no longer tells whether it is God leading him or his mind leading him. A point comes when, if God doesn't speak fast, he calls technocrats. And so Babylon has entered. Babylon brings mixture. And the reason he will do that is because his focus is no longer God. It's now about greatness. That's why it's called Babylon the Great. Compromise God and we give you greatness. Compromise God, we give you influence. Compromise God, we give you honor. But it's a subtle city. If you don't know how to fight it, you are gone. A day comes, you forget about evangelism. You start doing music concert. And even the music concert is not censored by the Spirit. You know people love music. And so anything you do that gets people's attention is good. A point comes, it's no longer about prayer and fasting and evangelism. It becomes about comedians. And you say, when they come, we win them to Christ. You don't know when mixture sets in. And then the comedian comes and waters down the doctrine. The comedian comes and waters down sacred and hallowed things. The things that we dread, they play with them. And after a while, everybody takes those things for granted. Church has become fuller, but the fear of God has died. Church has become fuller, but the worship of God has died. Church has become fuller, but the power of prayer has died. When you were few, everybody was a prayer warrior. When you were few, when you prayed, the hall vibrated. But now you are 1 million, and when you are praying, even the flies in the hall doesn't notice. We were in a biannual conference of one of the biggest church bodies in Nigeria. They say people should pray. Over 100,000 people were praying. You couldn't hear the prayer. If you were there, you would sleep off. Because the energy died. Great men show up. Mighty men show up. All the black Jews were assembled. Even the testimonies that were shared, all of them were in 1980. Because it was in 1980 that the energy of God was strong. You are permitted to burn like a star. When you enter a city, just fly. It's not your job to disciple the people. If you find the spirit of the territory, hack it down. When you enter there, shift the people to another dimension. Open the city and walk out. Anything they do is their business. You have opened the door. So we shine when we operate in apostolic dimension. But when it comes to apostleship, sometimes you look, you see some students. You know that where you want to go, they won't understand. And because it's not about what you know, you step down. Hey. So those of you who are deep, bear with us. Hey, yeah. Hey.
I will not end like this. No.